Hey guys, and welcome to this new episode of the DOORhof is always open. In this episode, I will take you backstage during the photo shoots we did in Dubai for Gulf Photo Plus. Now, during the Gulf Photo Plus weekend, I also interviewed my fellow guest instructors there. And trust me, there are some amazing tips in there and some amazing interviews. So, without making you wait any longer, here we go with the DOORhof is always open episode, Gulf Photo Plus Dubai. Hola, Mohammed. Very welcome to this video web podcast of the DOORhof is always open. Now, I'm here at Dubai, and this is my first time in Dubai. And I've done many trade shows, and a lot of people ask me to work for them. But I have to be totally honest, the way you guys treat us, it's really very nice. Very warm, well welcome. And you even helped me out when our credit card didn't work in all the slot machines. You helped me out with the taxi. That's a totally different story, by the way. But we're at Gulf Photo Plus. Now, for people who are living under a rock and don't know what Gulf Photo Plus is, can you, or Mohammed, or you of course, tell us what Gulf Photo Plus exactly is?
Sure. We'd like to think of ourselves as the heartbeat of the photography community in the Middle East, Dubai in the Middle East. And that involves educating and promoting photography as a mean for expression, So I don't know what else you'd like to add.
No, as Hala said, we'd like to think of ourselves as the pulse of the photography community, and so we host events and workshops. But I think what it also is a meeting point, is a point of resource for people to network, to get together and really share and learn and photography, and also connect with people. We, besides the annual events that we do, one of which you're here for, we host a lot of talks and community events and things like Market Day, where we facilitate a space for people to sell and buy used camera gear. So things to help the photography community, of course, and just help give people the tools to be able to tell stories with photos, that they can do whatever they would like to do with it, whether it's to pursue a social cause or just make some nice art, or just make money with photography.
Okay, now when you look at the lineups, like you had Joe McNally, David Hobby, Zach Arias, Gregory Heisler, and now you added me. How do you find your photographers?
Well, I think Dubai has been a place where a lot of photographers have been curious to come for many reasons. So,
Tell me why, please.
well, I think Dubai.
It's a beautiful city.
Dubai piques the curiosity of many people, especially photographers, because it's visually very interesting because of the architecture and the fact that you have this whole city that's emerged out of a desert, and you have some wonderful architectural marvels here, and just the allure of Dubai in the Western world has allowed for there to be this mystery. And I think when we tell people, hey, come to Dubai, spend a week with us, we'll fly you here and host you here, and you get to teach people from all over the world, and at the same time hang out with some of the world's top photographers. So it's not been a very tough sell, but I think over the years we've facilitated for a very nice atmosphere and ambience during the week that people love to come here and love to keep coming back.
Yeah, because this is the photo weekend. This is a 4-day workshop.
Correct.
And they really drive you hard. You start at 10, you end at 6, and then there's a lot of other stuff to do. But it's so much fun. But for us, it's a little bit hot. So in my room, they always say it's very chilly, and I'm going you're kidding, right? It's the only country where you go to the restroom and you keep your hands under the dryer to make them cold.
But there's no shortage of AC.
No, there's no shortage, but there is no cold water. So anyway, what I loved about Dubai is the people. Now, when I went to Dubai, the thing I thought, you see a lot of people in Kanduras, you see a lot of people covered up. Now, of course, you guys are very Western. You clothes like in jeans, shirts. What struck me is...
It's only for the video.
It's only for... Yeah, I know.
You're going to change in Turkey.
You're going to change in 2 minutes again. What really struck me, and you already said it, we have people flying in all over the world. Now, when I do Photoshop World, there are a lot of Americans, but there are also Canadians and also people from all over the world. Now, when I was here and I was sitting in a group and I just asked people, where are you from? And it really struck me that they are really from all over the world. There were people who flew in for 10, 12 hours just to be at Gulf Photo Plus. So you guys are doing something that's literally amazing. Now, how did it start? How did you ever get... Because literally, Dubai is in the desert, and for me I'm totally honest, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. If you love architecture, if you love big malls, and for me it was the old souk and the textile market. I could go there every day, but Annewiek won't allow me anymore. She got bored with it. And I wanted to buy a kandura, and she didn't like it. She said, I have to iron it. So... In Dubai, how did you start Gulf Photo Plus? What happened? What struck that's what I want to do?
Sure. Well, Gulf Photo Plus started in 2004, and there was an Australian lady who invited one photographer from the US, his name is Brian Peterson, to come and do a workshop, and she had her friends basically put some money together and say, hey, let's fly him out here and have him help us teach a workshop, because there was nothing like this here. And so he came down and people heard about it, and they said, hey, if you do this again, then let me know. I'd be interested in taking a workshop as well. So the next year she invited him again with another person or another, and then there were other locally based photographers. So it's grown from that. In 2007, I took it over because that lady went back to Australia, and then Hala joined me a year later, and we've worked really hard to expand the lineup and to bring the likes of Chase Jarvis and Joe McNally and David Hobby and Zach and their online presence, because it's so strong, it's helped promote Gulf Photo Plus and what we do across the world. And I think we've taken it a step further, because other than the event, we now have a very strong year-round lineup of events and activities. So we're not just doing it on a once a year or twice a year thing. There's photography events and activities, and the learning goes on, the interaction goes on, the networking between people goes on. You've seen our space in the art community in Al Quoz. Yes. So that allows us to be able to invite people on a regular basis to come to our space and engage. So,
and I think people in Dubai caught the photography bug very quickly, and it's spread. And I guess we contributed to the spread of it, but also it was part of the international trend.
So just like us
So-
in facilitating this, you guys, people like yourself who have a very strong, online presence, and the fact that when people tweet to you and ask you a question or on Google Plus, you get back to them. So it also helps, encourage and motivate people to say, well, I think I can do this. I think I can maybe make a picture like Frank if I sit and learn and, and talk to other photographers. So, about other people coming in from all over the world, I think Dubai is a very accessible place. Geographically, it's situated very perfectly, right? In the center of the Western, Eastern worlds. So it's easy for people to come down here. There are a lot of amenities and facilities for people to come in, to stay in hotels, and visas aren't that difficult to get, and we offer such a fantastic lineup of talent. So in the March event, for example, we literally have the world's coolest and top photographers, and it's hard to resist spending a week. And the thing about our event, which is really special, is people who participate have access to the photographers, so
Yes.
they can meet with them, and also the instructors get along in the evenings at the Vista Bar, and just hang out and share stories, which is I think a very unique and special aspect about our event.
And you're even sponsored by Sony now.
Well, Sony has sponsored the Photo Weekend event, but we're very proud on the other events to have the likes of Canon, Nikon, Apple, Panasonic, Samsung, Fujifilm. And also the lights like Profoto and Manfrotto and Photix, and a lot of brands are involved. So I think we take pride in the fact that we work with all the different brands who see the value in partnering with us, because we bring some top talent, but we also manage to draw people from all over the world, and especially within this region, to come and just enjoy all aspects of photography for a week.
Cool. And what are your future plans? Because you have the expo that's constantly running. Now Brook has a great expo there. Now, when we fast forward like 5 or 10 years, how do you think Gulf Photo Plus will do then? And what will change?
We'd like to... you want to...
We'll go global.
You come to the Netherlands.
Well, we'd like to continue to improve the events and offer new things. We've been doing things like the shootout, which has been really popular, and it's been exciting for people online to follow it all over the world. We try and offer different workshops. We allow photographers like David Hobby and Zach to experiment and maybe give new kinds of workshops, just so it's something different and get people to really challenge themselves. We've had the exhibitions. We're looking forward to hosting some very special exhibitions that showcase photography from parts of the world that aren't getting a lot of publicity. So we are going to host an exhibition sometime in 2013. We'll be showcasing some amazing African photography, whether it's fine art or documentary or the like. And I think it's important for us, especially in Dubai, where it's a multicultural world, to be able to give a platform to photographers who are not that known, but who are doing some amazing work in places like Africa or Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So that's something that we're hoping to do. And as Hala said, who knows, GPP might come to you.
I hope to be part of the lineup again. So
Thank you.
I had so much fun here.
We've loved having you, and there's been great feedback, and everyone's now looking for skateboarders in parking lots.
Yeah, one of the main advantages in Dubai is I needed an expensive car as a prop, and within 10 minutes we got an expensive car as a prop. How many do you want? So thank you, Hala. Thank you, Mohamed.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. It's
we'll
been
hope to
great.
see you again in Dubai. So now we're going to do an interview with the rest of the instructors of the Gulf Photo Plus. And guys, you're really in for a treat because, as they already said, they have some top-notch photographers who share tips with you guys. Hey, welcome, Scott. And
Hi, Frank. Thanks.
Hi. We're in Dubai, and we're at Gulf Photo Plus. And you're teaching stuff about interior shots, right?
Interiors, lifestyle photography. That's right.
Cool. Now, for people who are starting out with photography, just very quickly, interior styles, that means you go in, set up a tripod, press the shutter button and go? Or is there more involved?
We try to make it look like that. But yeah, tripod is definitely a key. We're doing long exposures generally because we're inside. The key is actually finding the compositions. I think the hardest part is to walk into an interior and get away from the idea that you're just going to back into the corner, throw the widest lens that you own on and say, here's what's in the room. Now you can see every object in the room and say, okay, now I'm done. That's a terrible photograph. So our job I'm not interested in what a room looks like. That's not the point of my photograph. My photograph is to show you what the room feels like. I want people to look at the photo and say, oh, I get it, right? And I can tell you more about an interior space with a tight, well-composed photograph that maybe only encompasses 25% of the room than I can by backing into the corner and showing you 80% of the room.
It's the same with fashion. We don't care about the models. Oh, we do care about the models, of course, but it's about what they feel. And I think the best thing is, and I hate smoking, let's make that clear,
Okay.
but one of the best things, I think, in commercial photography was like the Marlboro Man.
Right.
You saw him, you wanted to be him, so you started smoking.
Yep.
And it's wrong, but it's like the
But it
most
works.
powerful thing. It's lifestyle photography. And I think nowadays with a lot of people starting photography, that they often forget it. And what you say, they go in interiors, and I do sometimes see those shots. I don't do them myself. And you see those shots, and it's indeed what you say. They put up a tripod, they put in the camera, they shoot an HDR of an interior, go through the clickety-click and do what you like shots, and then they compose it, and it's done.
Yeah.
Now I saw your work, and it's like exactly what you said. I saw the picture now where you're sitting in the corner, and it just tells a little story.
Right.
And I think the storytelling, and for a lot of people, when you look at interiors, they're, and excuse me for saying it, they're boring. There's seats, there are chairs. Now, how do you start by, because when I look at your images, they're far from boring. Now, how do you do something like that? Because I've seen interior photographers doing stuff to a room where I was in, and I was looking like, some of my hotels where we stay. Come on, you see the images online, and you go like, yeah, I want to go to that hotel. Then you come there, and it's like, okay, it's exactly the same as in the picture, but it isn't.
But it doesn't feel the same way necessarily.
Now, how do you do something like that?
Well,
because that's magic.
I try to approach the interiors photography the same way that a great portraiture photographer works. There's a big difference between doing a headshot and doing a portrait, right? A headshot is what you look like, but a portrait says who you are. So I try to get inside the head of the designer of the space, the interior designer, the restaurant designer, the architect, and figure out what they were trying to say when they designed it. I want people to know the personality of the room. When I'm photographing a private residence, I want the photographs to say something about who lives there, who sleeps in this bedroom, right? What newspaper do they read? So it doesn't mean that we're going to have personal property and identification cards and things, but we want the photograph to impart that feeling so that you come away feeling like, oh, I really understand that place.
Okay, now let's say
so there's a technical side to it. Interiors photography, architectural photography is, I think, one of the more technical genres, and you see that I'm traveling around with a few 100 pounds of gear to do this stuff. And so you have to have that part absolutely intuitive. You've got to know that stuff and know the techniques forward and backward to where you don't have to think about it. And then you engage the right side of your brain, and you let those compositions come to you, and you let that story come to you.
Now, have you ever been in a situation, I can imagine, let's have a beautiful room and there's an aquarium. And you need to use strobes. Do you use strobes on location, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay,
yes.
so you need to use strobes. And there's that annoying reflection in that aquarium. Now, my first opinion would be just flag it off. But somehow you see a lot of those images, and they're more from starting photographers, where there are all those reflections. Now, if you would give people a tip about something like that, how do you approach the reflections in a room? Because sometimes they can be, you start out, you say, you know what, I just don't care anymore, because you see them everywhere.
Yeah, well, so reflections that are coming from my lights, you have to treat every piece of glass, every shiny reflective surface, even this banner behind us, as if it were a mirror. And if that were a glass mirror, you'd have to ask yourself, what would I be seeing in it? So we look at the scene from behind the camera, because the camera's perspective is the only one that counts. And we look at every piece of glass in the room, every shiny surface in the room, and we treat it as if it was a mirror. And I say, what would I be looking at? And I would be looking at something over there. I say, well, no lights right there. It's all geometry. It's just basic geometry, and you put your lights in places where they don't reflect. But we cheat all the time. So if I have, for example, maybe not an aquarium, but say a framed photo on the wall, or an oil painting, something like that with a glass on the front of it, and it's reflecting one of my lights. I go to the bathroom, I get a piece of toilet paper, it's always available, I wad it up, and I tuck it behind the frame of the picture, and I angle the picture out from the wall.
Angle of reflection.
Maybe half an inch, maybe 2 centimeters. angling at 2 centimeters moves what's being reflected 10 or 15 feet on the other side of the room. I clear a huge area. The camera flattens everything out, and nobody knows that I did it. And you can follow me all over the United States by the little wads of toilet paper I've left behind the pictures, because I always forget to go get them again.
So when I'm in a restaurant, I will check all the paintings from
Yeah.
now on if there's
You'll
toilet
know if
paper.
I was there.
Oh my! Are
I
you
once
gonna sign all
I
the
once left a
toilet papers?
$5 bill behind because it was the only thing I could find to put behind the thing, and then realized later
Oh my! Now the funny thing is, with all the photographers I talk about, fashion photographers, now interior, landscape photographers, they all say we start out with the scene and then we start adding lights.
Absolutely.
Now, when you have a beginner photographer, what they often do is they paid for 3 lights. Well, they're gonna use
Gonna
three
use
lights,
3 lights.
and they're just gonna set up the lights, and then they start figuring out what happens. I always say the angle of reflection will give you a nice idea about how to shoot. Like, for example, people with glasses, just angle the light a little bit higher,
Right.
make her look a little bit down, and you don't see the angle of reflection. Now, your opinion also is then first look at the scene and then try to add lights, and
Absolutely.
as little as possible, of course, as long as it looks natural.
You know, the fundamental technique that we're following is to expose for the brightest thing in the scene that we care about, that we can't control. It's almost always a window. We can't make the outside go any, we could come back at twilight maybe. There are times when we can, neutral density the windows, but for all intents and purposes, outside is what it is. So we expose for that. We make our first photo with no lights whatsoever, just focusing on getting the exposure we want on that window, or the chandelier, or whatever the brightest thing is we care about. Then you would look at that photo and you assess it, and you start adding lights appropriately. The key is that you have to have the finished photo pre-visualized. If you don't know what it's supposed to look like, then you don't know when you're finished.
Are you shooting HDRs?
Not at all.
You find it cheating?
I don't know. I don't find it cheating. I find that I don't have very good control over it. You're putting all this stuff in and you don't really know what's going to come out. Also, you don't get to be in charge of the light. So if you have a scene in front of you with kind of crappy light, you can massage it. You can adjust the relative brightness and darkness of things. But if the light's coming this direction, and you really want it coming this direction, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
You have to bring lights if you want to be in charge of the photo. So I don't care how someone gets there. Me, I like to finish the photo in the camera.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so I don't like doing Photoshop. I do some, but I do as little as I possibly can. But I don't mind people that want to composite everything together as long as they have the photo pre-visualized and they know why they're doing everything that they're doing.
Don't spray and pray.
Don't spray and pray. But if the picture that you end up with looks like the picture you had in your head and you can do it consistently, then you're doing it right.
You started with film, right?
I did start with film, and I'm going back to film. I'm playing around with film more and more and more. Commercial
me too. I'm
work, you
starting
kind of
again.
have to shoot digital these days, but the film is really fun.
Now, one final question. If you would give people one tip, like a really good tip for interior photography, what would it be?
The number one mistake that people make that screams, I don't know what I'm doing with interiors, is they stand upright in the room, they're standing straight up tall behind their camera, and they tilt the lens down into the room to get the composition that they want. And all the lines in the room that are vertical, the doorways, the windows, the support columns that are standing vertical in real life, just like in our room here, they all lean in. And the room looks like it's imploding on itself. You can't do that. So get your camera down low. The lens needs to be completely parallel to the floor, and I mean perfectly parallel to the floor, no matter what.
And tilt and shift lenses?
Shift lenses are extremely useful, and if you're going to shoot architecture, you have to have one. There's really no, you just can't not use one.
Okay, my final question, do you use a light meter?
There's a light meter in the camera, so absolutely I do.
But you don't meter yourself?
I'm not metering.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much, Scott, for the interview.
Good to talk to you.
You have one class left today, right?
One class left today, and then it's a long flight home. Sorry
You're
to go.
going to do an interior with motion.
We are going to put models into a restaurant. We're shooting a Korean karaoke bar and a Russian tea room. And we have some models coming in. We're going to set up a little dinner party. And I'm just saying right now that things are going to go awry at this dinner party. It should be fun.
Should I cancel my class or?
You'd be welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott, and have fun today.
Thanks for talking to me.
Hey Tony, welcome to the DOORhof is always
you.
open.
Thank you.
Now it's our video web podcast and we did one at Photoshop World with all the instructors and I just asked for a 1-minute tip. But now we're at Gulf Photo Plus in Dubai, right?
Beautiful country of Dubai.
Oh yeah, I love it here. And I thought we'd do it a little bit different. Let's just have a chat about what moves you in photography, how you started, and of course what people can find your work. But first off, I want to start with something else. When I started out with teaching, I found somebody online and his name was Dean Collins. And somehow yesterday we spoke and we found out that besides Kelby training, we have another connection and that's Dean, right? Now, I know a lot of younger photographers don't know Dean Collins. And I always say in my workshops, if you really want to know about photography and make it understandable, go and watch Dean. What's your opinion about this?
Yeah, pardon me. Dean was a unique individual. His popularity and his teaching sort of started slowing down about the time the internet and social world started picking up. So a lot of people don't know him or don't know his work. But he influenced so many people that do teach and so many educators, so many schools and universities across certainly in the US and certainly around the world. Because he sort of took photographic education and made it very serious. He really wanted to teach well. Prior to Dean, when we had a seminar or lecture, we would grab a tray of 80 slides on the way out the door and take our little Kodak E3 projector, plug it in, and show slides. Dean made it a business, and he made it a serious business. And he's the first one to develop, a 12, 15 projector show with a 30-foot by 10-foot screen and 2,000 slides. And he made it quite an event when he taught. And he made all of us really take a look at what we were doing. Not just the content, but how we presented the information. And it made us all much, much better teachers worldwide.
Yeah, I know, like Brooks Live, when he does the setup with the strokes, he goes like, okay, now we meet him. What do we have? And you see the flash going
Flash
off.
fires, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And they did it with slide projectors, right? There was no PowerPoint.
Right. That was all with glass-mounted 2¼ square slides on Hasselblad projectors, the big Hasselblad 80 projectors.
And nowadays you teach a lot, I teach a lot, and we share. But at that time, sharing wasn't that common, right? Because I think he got a lot of hate about it.
I think people often felt insecure and wouldn't want to share their information, and they always would say things about their secrets. I remember one man came up to us and had been known for a particular technique with Hollywood movie posters, where this is pre-digital, and he had people flying and desks flying and parts of office furniture in the air. And Dean asked about one specific thing and how he did this one thing. And the guy said, "Oh, I can't tell you that, Dean, that's my secret." And Dean went, "Oh, shut up." He said, "There's 4 ways to do it. I just wondered which one of those ways you used," and he walked away. So I think there were a lot of people that would keep their secrets close because they were worried about their competition. We now live in a world where we recognize that our clients are going to come to us regardless. Our clients want a connection with us, and we have a personal relationship with our clients. And the competition is not like it was then, and people are more willing to share, I think.
Yeah, that's great, because let's be totally honest, you're a good photographer, I'm a pretty good photographer. Now, when I give you my camera, my viewpoint, my angle of view, my lights, your image will come out different than mine.
Always
It's
will.
just a way of how can you, for me teaching is how I can teach people how to cut their workflow.
Right.
Because I can teach them all the techniques, but when you see the images, everybody will do it differently. It's not mathematics, It's not 1 and 1 is 2.
Right. Yeah.
It's 1 and 1 is something.
There's photographers that have very distinct styles. Anne Geddes, the child photographer from Auckland, New Zealand. Everybody's trying to copy Anne's work. You can't copy her work. Chip Simons in the States with his extreme fisheye lens with lots and lots of color. You can't copy that work. You can try, but it will not look like his. And your work of the babies and a basket of fruit will not look like Anne Geddes. Everybody has their own voice, and you have to follow your own voice and create your own voice, and that's the challenge.
Now, about creating your own voice. You're a very strong voice in photography. I love your work. I have seen the video on Kelby Training, and somehow you have a certain way of teaching that appeals to me. And your work is also very strong. Now, about finding your own voice, how did you start?
I'm the only person you'll meet in our industry that didn't begin life as a hobby photographer. Photography, I never had it as a hobby. I never owned a camera. My first picture I ever took was for a client. My brother-in-law was a photographer, and he offered me a position, a job at a studio in the late 70s. And what was unique was that I sat in the back of the studio in the dark and watched him shoot for 2 months. And then he turned me over to shoot one of the sessions in the studio. And so the first thing I shot was for a job. So it never was a hobby for me. I didn't love photography for about 3 or 4 years. Then I fell in love with it. I got pretty good at it pretty fast, and was doing some pretty recognized work, and I was starting to get asked to shoot international jobs, and some things started happening very fast for me. But it started out as just a job, and I would go home and not think about it again. I would cash my check and go to the movies. You know, I never really had a passion about it. Once the passion developed, then my quality increased tenfold.
Yeah, for me it's the other way around indeed. I was a hobby photographer, never thought I would make it in photography, so we started a computer company, and then it took off. And at that time, Annemiek, my wife, she's filming now, she took over the computer company, and now we're even expanding the studio even more, because it's, especially the last 4 or 5 years, it's been crazy. And for me it's a passion. Like I told you, we went to Dubai, and you visited the old souk also, right?
I did, like 2 nights ago.
The people are just throwing themselves in front of the camera, and when I'm out there, Annemiek always calls me like a little child. I'm in a candy store. As long as I can feel the shutter go, I don't care where I am.
Same with me.
But when I go somewhere and I don't have my camera with me, I'm bored.
And I think you said the right word. You said the word passion. And I think that our clients, as well as our students in the teaching situation, they know we have a passion for this. And because we have a passion for it, we're automatically going to become pretty good at it.
Yeah.
If you don't have the passion, you're not going to be good at it. And I think that's one of the things I tell students. If you don't have a passion for this, you're going to be very medium. You're going to be very mediocre. If you don't develop the passion, you're not going to develop your craft.
So let's say somebody's watching now and he's a good hobby photographer, and he's like, I want to quit my day job, I want to be a real photographer. What's your advice for him?
First thing is to make sure that the direction you want to go is exactly what it is that you love the most. In other words, if you love landscape work, don't try to shoot weddings. If you love portrait work, don't go become a commercial photographer shooting catalogs of little widgets. You have to shoot and go after the thing that you love. And then your career will last. Then you won't burn out. And people will come to you for that work. But if you try to be all things to all people, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And I see it over and over and over. And it's sad. I see good photographers go out of business because they've gone after the wrong business.
Yeah, I know. I now have the year with Frank DOORhof. It's a program where every 2 weeks I will give an assignment to a client, a student, and they have to do the assignment. And in the assignments I do like fashion work, wedding work, but also street photography and landscape. In 1 year, they will know what they like most. And for me, I love fashion, I love shooting people. Yeah. And when I met Jay Micel, I totally fell in love with street photography.
I have stories on Jay.
But probably they can't be on video, right?
We can't discuss them.
Oh, we talk. Sorry, Jay.
Jay has made me a better photographer because I now look for color because of Jay.
Yeah.
I just understand color now and look for it.
The tip he gave me, and the funny thing is, it isn't even a tip from him, is find the stage and the players will come. And when I started out with street photography, and I just did it as a hobby, I was hunting down people. And the only thing he said, and he said it in his J way, and I can't even imitate it, it was like, oh, don't do it like that. Just find the stage and the players will come. And then I went to Vienna, and next to our hotel, and Annemiek was sitting in the lobby, and I went out and there was a metro station. And in my head I heard Jay say in his New York way, just find the stage and the players will come. And I was sitting there, and it was true. I shot so many images in just half an hour, and I came back to the hotel, and Annemiek saw me smiling and said, what happened? I said, look at this. And then I have to go out again, and then I went to the other corner, and then I confronted Jay with that. I said, that made me a better photographer. And he said, damn, it wasn't even one of my tips. And that's the funny thing. And I think when I post on Google Plus or Facebook, I post my street images, I always say, don't judge me for these images, these are just fun. And I know at the moment I do some pretty nice street photography, it's not great, but my passion, my work is fashion and model photography. So I think indeed what you say, don't be an all-round photographer for your clients. What I found out...
But for yourself you have to.
For yourself you have to, because I think that since I do my street photography, my model photography has gone a lot better. When I talked to Moose, I never was into landscapes.
Right.
And then I did the interview with Moose, and I looked at landscapes a little bit different, and I started doing landscapes. And at the moment, I'm really like a crappy landscape photographer. But he taught me some stuff that just looked different, and I translate that to my fashion work. So I do think that as a hobby, you should be an all-round photographer, and that in your work, really you should focus on that one point.
I think that we obviously become better photographers. I studied and listened to some words from Da Vinci where he talked about shadows and how the importance of shadows in a painting. Pardon me. And he says if he avoids the shadows, he may be said to avoid the glory in art. So now, instead of looking for great light, I'm out looking for great shadows.
Yeah, shadows are the
I'm going to find the great light when I find the great shadows.
Yeah.
But just in looking for that alone, at any time of day and any subject matter, it's making me a better people photographer and a better fashion photographer and a better portrait photographer.
I know a lot of people, and I love that about the way you teach, is they are afraid of the sunlight. And for me, there's no bad light. There are photographers who can't handle light.
Right, it's just light.
Yeah, I've shot some amazing shots from just I had a competition or a challenge in one of my workshops, and they said, Frank, you shoot with strobes, you shoot this, you shoot that. I can do that. But now, what about when you just go out in the blistering sun? I say, okay, in 10 minutes we have a lunch break, right? And I told my model, are you up for a 10-minute shoot outside in the sun? And she said, yes, of course. And I took the challenge. I said, I can produce probably 4 shots that are acceptable for a magazine in 10 minutes in the blistering sun. He said, okay, with your Canon and without any other aids, no reflectors, nothing. I said, yes. Because the only thing I did is the trick I used, because the sun was very bright, I gave her sunglasses. So she could look straight into the sun.
Sure.
And you saw the shadows, and he was going like, okay, but that looks the same as with a reflector. I said, of course, it's hard shadows. If you look for the shadows, those are the soul in an image. If you can control the soul of an image, you can control the image.
And I've listened to interviews with cinematographers.
Oh yeah, they're great with that.
The great cinematographers say the same thing. It's not more that you add, but it's more you take away that creates the drama in the pictures and in the scenes and in the films.
Yeah.
And so as still photographers, in a motion picture, it goes by in a fraction of a second, and hopefully the emotion in the scene has pulled you in. But for still photographers, when we capture it, people get to stare at it and stare at it and stare at it. So it really needs to be better than what they're doing.
What I always try to do with my photography is have that movie sense of it. And I always approach a scene from 2 ways. The first way is first look at the available light. Can I do it with the available light? Don't add strobes or reflectors or whatever.
Sure.
And we're going to do that today. And today we're going to go to a car park. We have a Mercedes SLK. We have a skateboarder there. There I'm going to probably start with a black canvas, meaning I'm going to meter the ambient light, and I'm going to strobe everything away. And then I'm going to start my lights, and I'm starting with a black canvas.
Sure.
But normally when I do it outside, like on Sunday we go to the desert with the model, then I will start with a white canvas. In other ways, I will use the ambient light,
Sure.
find the shadows, and then find, do I need a little bit on the face, just to let the face pop out, and maybe add a stroke, or maybe just turn the model, find the ambient light, find the shadows. And often I don't even use strobes. I have all the gear with me, and I start using natural.
But the biggest tip of all here, and the biggest thing that you've just confirmed once again to me, is we have to know all of our tools in our toolbox.
Yeah,
We
don't
have
use
to,
them,
we
but we have to know.
have a toolbox filled with tools. When we walk into a situation, we have to look at the situation, think about what the client's requesting, and say, oh, for that, I need this, this, and this tool. I don't need those other 4 tools. I need these 3 tools.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to use all your tools. And that's what new photographers have to learn.
Okay, so I think that's a great tip. So I will see you in Photoshop World, right?
You will see me in Orlando. I
In
think,
Orlando.
next.
We're going to have fun there. So
That's great.
I would like to thank you so very much.
Thank you, Frank. I'm so glad to meet you here and be with you in
Okay.
the wonderful country of Dubai.
Hi, Brooke.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Welcome at Go Photo Plus, of course, but most of all, welcome to our video web podcast, The DOORhof is Always Open. Now,
Thank you.
as the name say, my name is DOORhof, right? And somebody said, make the door like big capitals, and because I'm always open, I always share my tips to people.
Yep.
And in this video web podcast, what we normally do is when I teach somewhere, I try to interview the instructors, and especially the people whose work I admire. I saw the opening of your show, and you have some amazing work there.
Thank you.
But I think it's compositing, right?
It is.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
lots
you can,
of compositing.
Yeah, because I saw some stuff that could never be done real. I thought, where was that shot? And
Yeah.
then you realize it's a composite, of course.
Yes.
So I'm just joking with you. Now, what drives you in your photography? Because it's a lot of work to do the composites you do. Like when I shoot, it's like I try to get everything in camera. And we're the opposite of that. So I will try to get everything right. And then in Photoshop, for me, it's like opening the images, giving it a tint, saving the image, done.
Yeah.
I think for you, it's more like just shoot the elements, have the story in your mind, and do it. But you can explain that better, I think.
Yeah, so a lot of it is trying to get it as perfect in camera as it can possibly be. You know, I'm not trying to take any shortcuts. I shoot everything on location. I shoot all of my own stock images and things like that. And that way when I get it into Photoshop, that's where I can sort of start the process of not only just putting it together, but creating a whole new world through my images. And I came to realize very quickly that I couldn't do that just by taking a snapshot. Or even by taking multiple images and just putting them together. You have to go beyond that. And for me, that's in Photoshop, changing the colors and the tint of the image to an extent where it doesn't look like a regular representation of reality.
It fits together. Yeah, and I know the best tip I ever got about compositing, I think it was from Matt Kloskowski, was make sure that everything has the same tint.
Yes.
Because that's a giveaway. And that was something that I actually always did wrong, because when I looked at my first composites,
Yeah.
I already tinted it a little bit, but I was trying, but it didn't work. Now, when somebody wants to start out with the work you do, where do they start? Because I know a lot of people, they just shoot, and then
Yeah.
later in Photoshop, they have all the images there. And I know yesterday I talked with you and you were ready to get underwater. Now, I imagine that you already have the story, right?
Yes, always.
So
100%
what's your
of the
creative
time.
process in that? What inspires you? How do you get the stories? Because the images I saw were just like, I don't know what's going on in your mind, but it must be
Yeah.
one big movie.
Yeah, it is one big movie, really. I actually went to film school before I started photography, thinking that I would be a director, and I had all these stories in my mind. And then I came to realize that they worked a lot better as still images, where I could just capture that one moment in time, the moment that has the most tension in it, where there's no turning back sort of from that moment in time. And ever since I was little, I've been inspired by fairy tales, but with a dark twist. And so I've taken that inspiration and basically just said, if I could create any picture in the world, what would it be today? And I just started creating that. So I would do a little horrible sketch and sort of try to visualize, what's in my imagination. I would write out a few paragraphs of exactly what needs to be done. So not just, this is the story and this is what I want it to look like, but what's my camera angle going to be and what f-stop should I use and things like that. So that when I get there to shoot, the process is only about 5 minutes because I already have it all completely planned out. And so if anybody's just getting started with this kind of work, I think that's the most important thing, is to, as much as you can, figure out what you might need. And it can't hurt to shoot a whole bunch of different things in case you can use it. But if you can go in saying, okay, I need to shoot the subject, I need to shoot X, Y, and Z that might go into that, it's going to be a lot easier to know where to start in Photoshop.
Yeah, I think that's a very good tip. And that's how I do my composites now when I plan a composite.
Yeah.
But when you hunt for your stuff, and I know I've seen the images and
Yeah.
they're pretty amazing. And I
Thank
hope
you.
we can show some on the DOORhof is always open. So I ask you permission for that now.
Absolutely.
Cool. And how long can it, let's look at this. What is the quickest one you did in, let's say, terms of days, weeks, or years? The
Okay.
quickest. From planning in your mind till the end product.
A bunch of my images were done in one day. And that's because I sort of have a store of images in my head that I just really want to get done. In the beginning, I could do one a day, and just sort of plan it in the morning, shoot it in the evening, edit it at night kind of thing. And that was when I realized that I was moving too quickly. And I really like to spend a lot more time on my images now. So at this point, I typically sit with the idea for at least a week. And I just sort of flesh it out. And from day to day, I keep evolving and changing that idea until I think, this is it. I can't possibly add anything and be happier with it. Once I'm at that point, that is when I get all of my elements together, go shoot, and then editing now in truth, the compositing portion could take 5 minutes. It's not that difficult to put different pictures together.
CS6 and CS5, it's easy.
Mm-hmm. And then I typically, though, will not spend less than 2 hours on an image editing. And I have spent up to 30 hours on an image editing it. So from start to finish, I would say on average, it's about a week to 2 weeks is typical.
And your worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario. I actually just kind of went through that last week where I had an image in my mind for about a month and a half, and it just seemed like an impossible idea. And so I struggled with it for a long time. I, went out searching for the perfect prop at so many different stores. And then when I finally got to shoot it, I had to shoot it on 4 different days at 4 different locations, in the ocean, underwater in a creek, in my backyard, all these different places. And so it took a very long time. And then when I finally got to edit it, I thought I had worked everything out. And it turned out that I just had no idea how to put it together. And I thought that I knew. So that was the point where I thought, am I going to have to do this all over again? And then I realized I just had to keep pushing myself and learning new things in Photoshop. So from start to finish, that picture took about 2 months and was just a complete journey of learning new things and trying to push myself further.
Now, do you like the image you work on one day more than the image you work on 2 months, or the opposite?
The opposite. I love the images that I work on for a long time. And it was only very recently, in the last month or so, that I decided that creating images too quickly sort of devalues those pictures in a way for me. Even if I love the outcome, what I love even more than that is the process that I went through to get there. So I want to spend my time really putting every effort that I can into, enjoying the process and making it as meaningful as possible. That way the final outcome is more meaningful to me in the end.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much for the interview.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll show some images to the viewers who don't know your work yet, but you really should check out her work because it's amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Shaden and I'm doing a behind the scenes video today. I'm out with my friend Lindsay Adler and we're both shooting the same model in the same wardrobe but sort of 2 different styles. So she's over there right now in a field and she's shooting some fashion shots, some close-ups, some long shots, and I'm going to be shooting something a little bit grittier, something more fine art. My idea for today is to use this giant billowing dress that Lindsay rented, and I'm going to be using that sort of in a puddle and then for a different shot, and I'm going to see which of the 2 I like best to publish in my portfolio.
So I'm going to stand off to this side.
Bluebird, sitting on my windowsill, singing sweetly out into the morning chill. Pour in your heart out like words on a page, and a note float away to the sky. Bluebird, tell me what you're thinking of. Lovely weather, I don't know, could it be love? Shine your feathers, fly up and find her. I really hope you do. There's a song in your heart, there's a spring in your step. While you're sending for the dream to haven't happened yet. Oh, keep on sending those wishes, keep on sending those words. Fly away to places where your little song can be heard. And while you're perched on empty branches, darling, don't lose heart. You're gonna get there, you're gonna find your start. Big white clouds sit proudly in the amber sky, spinning thoughts all tangled up in lullabies. Shake the sleep off, open up your tired eyes. What's a girl to do? There's a song in your heart, there's a spring in your step. While you're sending for the dream to haven't happened yet. Oh, keep on sending those wishes, keep on sending those words. Fly away to places where your little song can be heard. And while you're perched on empty branches, darling, don't lose heart. You're gonna get there, you're gonna find your start. I'm so tired of hearing, darling, what's the fuss
say today a little bit what I was thinking of. For Brooke, it's all about her single photo. That one shot that captures the moment, the mood, the vision that she has. For me as a fashion photographer, it's a little different. I am going to be shooting, kind of thinking about an editorial, about showing off the dress, about showing off the brand. So that's what I did. So I shot some beauty, because the model's gorgeous, amazing. So I shot some beauty of her. I shot some wide shots that really emphasized the movement of the dress. I shot some images that showed the environment. And so for me, I'm envisioning that we lay out as an editorial, multiple images together. And I just want to show Brooke up and show her that, you know, what a fashion photographer does versus like fine art. Come on. I love her a little bit, but I also hate her a little bit too.
So Lindsay and I were shooting together today. We both did separate shoots. She shot for probably an hour. She disagrees. I think it was an hour. I floofed her dress a lot, and she did beauty shots and some long shots and things like that. And I did just a few shots of Sonali, the model, running away from the camera. And then we did some interesting poses with all of the different electric lines and stuff like that in the background to sort of play against the human form versus mechanical man-made things. So I know that Lindsay thinks that she's going to beat me in this battle, even though it's not actually a battle. But it's, in the end, just something totally different, that she's doing editorial, I'm doing fine art, and yet we can use the same model, the same wardrobe, the same space, and do something totally different from each other. But we still have the same philosophies on inspiration and on what creativity means. And in the end, I love her very much, and I love working with her. Bye!
Okay, so honestly, looking at this environment and the shots, who took a better picture? I mean, really, we all know. Wait, they don't know who's holding the camera. Excellent. Well, I had the most beautiful model to work with, and I had Brooke to inspire me and challenge me because I have to destroy her. I love you, Brooke. I love you, Brooke.
David, welcome to our video web podcast, The Door Off is Always Open.
Thank you.
And
nice to be here.
We're in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
Now, yesterday I saw a presentation from you where you showed Dubai framed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I know that some of the people, and with us it's because I'm a fashion photographer, I interview also a lot of people that work with people, fashion. And of course I did Moose Peterson for landscapes.
Yeah.
But when I look at your work, you have a distinct voice with finding angles, finding stuff. And a lot of people who were from Dubai didn't even recognize the stuff that you shot as their city. And then when they heard where it was shot, it was like, oh, that's an amazing view. How do you approach something? Let's say you're in Dubai now 10 times.
Yes.
And you know all the locations. And you, of course, first shot the postcards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you would give a tip to somebody, how do you approach something new?
The thing I said last night in the talk, which is kind of, I think, the key thing. If you take the shot that you can see when you're walking around, then that's the wrong shot. So if people can go, yeah, I walked past there yesterday, then what you've done is, it's kind of like the tourists who walk around with the iPads. You know, it's kind of the scene that people will see. So I think any location you go to is worth spending time thinking, okay, right, there's the scene, these are the elements, how can I combine these in kind of a unique and novel way? So a simple thing would be just shoot close to the ground. People don't crawl around on their hands and knees necessarily. People don't lay on the ground. But it provides a different perspective. So just think about where you are. Think about with a lot of the scenes, my scenes are actually quite simple. You've kind of got a skyline, you've got some foreground detail, and in Dubai there's kind of either water in the way in the middle, there's sand in the middle. So how do you put these elements together to tell kind of a more compelling story? So just spend some time thinking about what you're shooting.
Now, what I found interesting is a while ago I got an email from Gulf Photo Plus, and they said, Frank, we like your fashion work, would you try out a new camera? And it was the Sony Alpha 99.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest, my first impression was Sony. It's like, I have a projector from Sony, which I love, by the way. It's the VW95. It's a great HD projector. And when we watch our movies on it, I have a video camera from Sony. But a DSLR, for me, it was like, okay, let me think about it if it doesn't collide with any sponsors I have. And I knew I wouldn't collide, but I didn't want to say no right away.
Yeah.
Then I Googled online and I saw it was the SLT, so it was like a translucent mirror. I saw all the other stuff like full frame, Exmor sensor. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take the chance. They sent it to me and man, I was blown away. I know the 5D Mark III very well, and I think it's a great camera. I shoot medium format, that's great.
Yeah.
But I never saw the performance of the Sony Alpha 99. Now, I know there are not a lot of people who shot the Sony at the moment, and I know you have one.
Yeah.
What's your opinion about it?
Well, my story's the same. They got in touch with me and said Sony are launching their new flagship DSLR and one of their next cameras. So I kind of did some research. And my initial thought was, why do I want a Sony DSLR? I've got a 5D Mark II. I haven't upgraded to a 5D3, but I'm happy with 5D2 at the moment. Why am I interested in this? And so I spent a lot of time researching the next cameras. I said, if they send me the next 7, I'd really like to try one of those. And then they said, well, actually, it's the next 5. And I looked at the spec for that and thought, no, I'm not really interested. Then started reading about the A99 and thought, well, actually, this looks quite interesting. I still wasn't expecting to like it, because my view of Sony is a company that produces innovative technology, but kind of not gimmicky, but what would I do with this? What would I do with this technology? Yeah. But like you, I've been completely blown away by the camera. Absolutely fantastic sensors. The innovative technology, so like the EVF, focus peaking, a whole range of other stuff is actually extremely useful. And you kind of marry that up with a camera that has better dynamic range than the 5D2, at least I think it does at this stage.
Yeah, it does.
It's great at high ISO, it's a rugged body, it's a professional spec body. Fantastic. I've really enjoyed shooting with it.
I know that I thought it was water resistant, so I took it out on a photo walk in Amsterdam, and it was so wet it would be the same as standing under a shower for an hour with the camera. And I went back at the hotel and I made a joke. I said, if this camera wasn't water resistant but only like for little drops, the water would be coming out of the memory slots.
Yeah.
Then one day later I posted it online and somebody said, Frank, it's not water resistant, it's only standing a little bit of water. And I was like, oh, they can change that now online, it's water resistant. So for me it was indeed a big surprise. And the same thing with you, I thought I would try it out they gave me 3 weeks with it. So I thought, you know what, I'd try it out for 3 weeks and then I will send it back and I will write a review about it and I will be totally honest. And at the moment, and you know what, I talked to you about it yesterday, I'm seriously considering on adding it to my gear kit and doing some more stuff with it, because actually it's amazing. Now, for your work, when you do architecture, like for me with fashion, in the fashion stuff it isn't that important to have the big dynamic range, because if I want that one, I will go to the medium format, and still at that moment nothing beats that. But when I do the street photography, there are often a lot of harsh shadows, and you can just pull up the shadows and highlights. Now, somebody compared my image I did in Amsterdam with, it's an HDR. And he didn't like the HDR look. Then I told him it's the Sony Exmor sensor, and it just pulled back the highlights and bumped up the shadows. And he was going like, if there's HDR in a sensor, I definitely don't want it. Then I told him, dude, listen. I pulled up the shadows, I pulled down the highlights. If you don't do it, it will look like any other camera, just a little bit more dynamic range. Now for your work, it must be like heaven, because normally you would maybe need 2 exposures to get the same shot you now do with the Sony.
Well, I've been looking at the raw files and thinking, why is the detail there? Because I know what the exposure should look like. And it's like, you look at the shadows especially, you look at the shadow detail and think, this is amazing, that wouldn't be there with the 5D2, this would be black. Or if not black, so dark that I couldn't pull it up because there's not enough data. So what I'm going to do when I get back to the UK is shoot some test comparisons of the same scene. Didn't have time to do it before I came, and I didn't bring the Canon with me as well. But But yeah, I can't fault it at this stage. I can't. There's things that could, as we've already discussed, there's things that could be improved, but there's nothing broken and there's nothing wrong and there's nothing fundamentally missing. So yeah, great camera.
Okay, now in your work, let's say I'm a starting photographer, and I just bought my new camera, and I want to quit my day job and become a professional David. What should I do?
Well, it depends. When I'm ever asked this question, I'll say to people, do you enjoy your job? Oh yeah, it's fine, yeah, I just want to be a photographer. How much time have you got for photography? Oh yeah, I spend every weekend doing it, and I shoot in the evenings and I shoot in the lunch break. And so if you're happy doing that, keep doing it. You turn professional, it's competition, and the irony is you'll have less time for photography. So I can't remember who said it now, no doubt somebody will know who's watching. The business of photography is 90% business, 10% photography. Yeah. So my advice would be don't do it, but if you are going to do it, what you need to do is what's different about you? How do you stand out? What makes you different? If you're kind of shooting the same stuff as everybody else, it's a wickedly competitive market. So for example, in the UK, the universities turn out enough photographers every year to service the entirety of Western Europe. So that's just UK universities. So these are qualified photographers. Many of them are very, very good, but there's enough of them to service all of Europe for pretty much the next 10 years. So very, very competitive, but if you want to make some sort of mark, you need to stand out. Would you agree?
I agree, because I liked what you said yesterday. You showed some shots. He said, after I shot this, I saw 45 of the same, and then somebody from the crowd shouted out, and I was almost wetting my pants. He said, David, I got that one with clouds.
Yes,
and I think it's the same thing. I recently know that the picture you shot where you framed Dubai in, I believe it's something you looked through from a restaurant.
It's a pool, yeah, it's a top of a hotel in Dubai.
Yeah, if you allow me, I will put it now on the image.
Yeah.
And I know I was surfing online and somebody said, you have to go to this guy because he also shot Dubai. And I saw one of the images and I was like, I know that image, but it's actually not that good. But I thought it was from somebody else. And then yesterday I was sitting in your seminar and I saw the exact same image coming by with exact the same framing, exact the same crop, only that time it looked like I remembered it. And that's of course with fashion, I'm a lucky guy because my models will always move.
Yes.
Now for architecture, how do you protect your stuff? Or do you say, I don't care, I will invent something new?
So in what way? How do I protect it from what?
If everybody does the same thing, like I asked you, where did you shoot the image with the strip? Because I would love to have that image. However, if I go up, you said use the 16 mil. I would never use the 16 mil because then if you're shot, I will use 17 or 15. Now I will probably use 24.
That's what I was saying, go wider.
Yeah, or I will just zoom in, but I just love the angle.
Yes.
And the way you see it. But I would never try to shoot the same shot with you because then you have that Kodak moment, There's a dot on the floor, aim your camera that way, and the only thing they don't say is the ISO and the f-stop.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want something else. So do you protect your stuff like that? Do you feel offended when you see your image appearing on somebody else? Or does it just drive you to do, okay, now we'll do something that you will never figure out?
No. I think if I was doing more commercial work, I'd be a bit more protective about what I'm doing. Because if I was trying to do a lot of commercial architectural photography, then I'm kind of not going to give away the secrets because then it's my competition. What I'm mostly doing now is training. So either post-production training, shooting training. So kind of the stage a lot of photographers go through is emulation. So if I'm inspiring people to go and take that shot, then the next one's going to be slightly different. And then from there, they'll kind of develop their style. I think sometimes being able to point people at great shots that maybe they can't necessarily kind of figure it out for themselves is all they need to get them going. If people can get a fantastic image, then, wow, look at this shot I've got, this is fantastic. Right, I'm going to apply that technique to this building that I know, and they will get a shot I've never seen. So no.
That's really nice because it's every instructor I interview, they say exactly the same thing. And I interviewed a long time ago and it wasn't on any web podcast, I just talked with him and he was starting teaching and he said the opposite. I said, man, I hate it when people copy my stuff. And I say, you know what, when I do a Kelby training video, I see all over the world, I see stuff coming up. I had something called with organza, fire cloth, and we put wind on it and the model was screaming. And I saw those images popping up on Facebook like crazy as soon as the video got released. We now have the art of dance where we throw water and flour at a model. And you see those images popping up. As soon as you teach, I think you start learning to let go and invent yourself over and over again, because otherwise people will go once to a workshop. Oh, it's the David workshop or the Frank workshop. We already seen that. Now every year I will do something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't care if people copy it. Copying is the best form of flattery.
Imitation is a sincere form of flattery,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And it does inspire people. You can show them how to get one shot and they will go and do something else. If that's all they ever did, that would be kind of a shame, but it never is. You know, as I say, I've been here 10 times and I come back. Mohammed, who runs GPP, was one of my students the first year I was here. And he now owns the company and he's doing really well. There's other people that I routinely shoot with now, working professionally. Again, they were my students in 2007, 2008, and they produce fantastic work. And the good thing for me is kind of when you set people going, they get better and better. So you come back and you can't kind of just shoot the same stuff and get away with the same angles. Yes. You do have to think. So it kind of pushes me as well. So I've pushed them, they push me.
Yeah, that's the nice thing.
Yeah.
And you kickstart their career.
Yeah. But you can't train people properly if you've got secrets. If you say, right, I'm going to tell you the easy stuff, but I'm not telling you this because this is mine. You're not having that.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
It never works, no.
And they never can emulate it exactly. So. Okay, so thank you so very much,
You're
David.
welcome.
And you're teaching today again, right?
We're out shooting the city.
They really push us here, right? From 10 till 6 and then in the evenings.
Yeah. You should come in March when we do 7 days in a row.
7 days in a row?
Yeah.
I don't know if I will survive that one, but okay, thank you so very much.
Good to meet you.
See you
very
soon.
much.
Okay, thank you.